Good morning, everyone. And I am very pleased to be here this morning to open the third Scottish Transport Emissions Partnership Annual Conference. And I very much welcome your kind invitation for me to do so. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also here this morning to launch our Cleaner Air for Scotland, the road to a healthier future. And this provides a new national strategy within which all of us can work together towards the common aim of achieving cleaner air quality for Scotland. Now, the range of organisations attending today, I think that clearly shows us that there is a great deal of shared interest in and commitment to improving air quality. And that is an approach you will not be surprised to hear is shared across the Scottish Government. And indeed, I think the keynote speech at last year's STEP conference was made by Keith Brown, then Minister for Transport and Veterans and now Cabinet Secretary. Now, he set out a vision for a low-emission strategy, which of course we have now retitled to Cleaner Air for Scotland. So today's event will focus, especially, on both the very significant achievement of getting to this point and also, I think, more importantly, of what happens next. Now, in recent decades, the polluting outputs from domestic and industrial premises have been reduced, as have emissions from transport through tighter fuel and exhaust emissions standards. Now, these improvements, they are widely recognised, and rightly so, because what is less evident, though, to members of the public is that despite these efforts, we still have pockets of poorer air quality remaining in many of our towns and cities. And there are currently 32 air quality management areas in place across Scotland, the vast majority declared on the basis of transport emissions. And unlike the dark smoke belching from factory chimneys and houses in previous times, these pollutants, which include fine particulate matter and nitrogen oxides, are largely invisible, but they are no less significant in terms of their impact. Now, Cleaner Air for Scotland is our first distinct national air quality strategy. It sets out actions right across our government portfolios that will further reduce air pollution, with a particular emphasis on protecting human health and reducing health inequalities. And also, I think, recognises that contribution, that better air quality can make to the government's purpose, including protecting our natural environment for the people of Scotland. And in addition to a series of actions across a whole range of policy areas, I think there are, several important new initiatives within the strategy, including, first of all, a national modelling framework, which will provide a standard air quality assessment methodology for use across Scotland, and also a national low-emission framework, which will set out a procedure for local authorities and our agencies to determine effective measures that will address air quality issues at a local level. Now, these frameworks form the basis, of an innovative new approach to air quality management in Scotland. And Cleaner Air for Scotland, also raises our ambitions in other ways, because we will adopt the World Health Organisation guideline values for particulate matters in Scottish legislation, making Scotland the first country in Europe to do so. And we're also going to be developing a national air quality awareness campaign to inform key audiences and encourage behavioural change, because public participation and public engagement is absolutely essential if we are to deliver cleaner air. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, many of the actions that we can take to improve air quality, such as greater use of public transport, increasing active travel, and creation of green infrastructure, will result in healthier, more pleasant places to live and work, in addition to achieving those practical and financial benefits for business. And we must also, highlight the opportunities to generate efficiencies and cost savings by linking air quality to other policy areas such as climate change, adaptation and mitigation, transport and planning. So our Cleaner Air for Scotland aims to provide a framework within which this can be achieved. And this is, especially for me, it is particularly important in the context of the forthcoming UN climate change negotiations in Paris next month. Now, as we all know, air pollution remains a significant public health issue, and particularly for those who have existing conditions such as asthma and heart disease. And this leads, to more frequent episodes of ill health and overall reduced life expectancy and a serious collective impact on our society. And although much of the focus, has been on the effects of fine particulate matter, evidence is also now beginning to accumulate on the potential scale of impacts associated with nitrogen oxides, and especially nitrogen dioxide, on its own or in combination with other pollutants. And that is particularly important given the current concerns regarding levels of nitrogen oxides that are associated with diesel engine vehicles. Now, as we know, poor air quality is also a social issue, and it affects, the more vulnerable members of the population disproportionately. And such inequalities resulting from air pollution are just totally unacceptable. So our vision is for Scotland's air quality to be the best in Europe. And in setting this target, we recognise that poor air quality is an international issue. And along with the majority of other EU member states, we know that Scotland has yet to achieve full compliance with EU legal requirements. But through Cleaner Air for Scotland, I want us to demonstrate our level of ambition, but at the same time to learn from good practice elsewhere. Now, we are also facing increased challenges as a result of emerging evidence around underperformance of EU diesel vehicle emission standards, as well as breaches of emission testing regulations by certain manufacturers, and I'm sure you all know which one I'm referring to. Now, let me be absolutely clear on this point, because such breaches are first and foremost a public health issue, and thereafter, the impacts are focused on both the environment and consumer rights. Now, we just cannot achieve the aims of Cleaner Air for Scotland alone, and successfully addressing air pollution, that requires a partnership approach, involving the government, its agencies, local authorities, business and industry, professional institutions, non-governmental organisations, and the general public. And central, regional and local government officials, especially those working in transport, urban and land use planning and environmental health, all of them have a key role to play with the Scottish Government, providing support, providing advice and policy direction. So great efforts have been made to ensure that this strategy was developed in a collaborative fashion. And I think certainly during last year's STEP conference, a call to action was made for organisations and individuals to get involved in the development of the strategy. And I know that many of you here today certainly answered that call. So I would like to take the opportunity to personally thank all of those who have been involved in the strategy to date, and to encourage you to continue to provide your support and your input. Of course, publishing this strategy is in many ways, it is the start of the journey rather than the end, and delivering the wide range of actions contained in this strategy will be the measure of its success. So the Scottish Government will be relying heavily on our partners and engagement via STEP to help us to achieve this. Now, I want to finish my remarks, ladies and gentlemen, by just commending STEP's collaborative approach in bringing together such a huge range of stakeholders to increase awareness of air quality and health issues associated with transport emissions, and to share examples of good practice, which I think can hopefully inspire all of us to make a real difference to the quality of the air that we breathe. And I think certainly with a concerted effort, to work together towards this goal, then really the vision of our Cleaner Air for Scotland strategy can be realised. I think, certainly helping us to create and maintain that strong, healthy and fair society with clean air for all that I'm sure we all want to see delivered. So thank you very much for the opportunity this morning to speak to you, and also the opportunity to launch this morning's Cleaner Air for Scotland. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for listening.